Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Welcome to the Not So Daily Show, the show that comes to you daily, except when it doesn't. I'm your host, Themba. To my right, we've got political analyst and guy with the coolest name in the world, Themba Maluleke.
What up, buddy? What up, buddy?
What up, buddy? And to my left, we've got a brand new friend of the show's SABC News producer, Prudence Makhubalo. How are you?
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you. We have to start the show by acknowledging the unnecessary loss of life in the Mthokozisi Ntumba killing. We send our condolences and strength to his friends and family. But staying with the student protest, let's begin with Nzimande, the man that's clearly not as sharp as his name suggests. So both Blade and Wits claim that there is no crisis with student funding. They say that 95% of the students coming into Wits this year have already registered, to which the SRC calls bullshit. They say that there is a lot more students than that are struggling to get into the system this year.
The year officially starts at Wits tomorrow. We understand the programs will be starting online, but there's an issue with outstanding fees and the registration process. The school itself says that out of the 37,000 students, 35,000 have been registered. But just to get more insight on this, I'm joined by the SRC President, Pendulo Mfeka. Thank you for joining us at ENCA. I'm speaking to management as we speak, and they detail 35,000 students that have been registered. You disputing this? What do we take forward?
So it's a lie to say 35,000 students of the 37 that are supposed to register have registered. And I say this because about 2 weeks back, the Dean of Student himself confirmed that there's about 8,000 people who are at financial risk.
So the question I have is that if it's really just 5% of the students that are struggling, as Wits and Blade claim, right? Why is it so difficult to make a plan for these people? Is it a state problem? Is it a university problem? Or who should be sorting them out?
I think it's both, right? Both in the sense that the universities are commodifying education, and at the same time the state has implemented some sort of austerity measures by introducing budget cuts into NSFAS and the Department of Higher Education.
Yeah.
So now, as much as right now the attention is on Wits, the problem is much broader.
Yeah.
You know, it stretches to UNISA, it touches other universities also because of those austerity measures that have been implemented by the state. So it's definitely both university and the state, definitely. Yeah.
100%. True, what do you think of that? Like, if they're gonna cut budget, is education like even an option to cut budget on? Like, does it make sense?
Yeah, so obviously it's the state's problem. Obviously we've seen rather at the budget speech of Ntumba, we actually blame the National Treasury for them having these budget cuts, especially when he mentioned the austerity budget. The government is actually improvising into the human rights of people. Yeah. What is the constitution saying on education? Exactly. So the big question is, are they able to have free education within the university system?
Which was promised by Jay-Z when he left. Yeah. When he left. So what was that? Was Jay-Z just fucking up the next government, or was that, do you think that was actually in the ANC's plans?
No, honestly, I don't think he was setting them up or anything, right? Since 1993, every single manifesto, they've been punting free education, you know. And Jay-Z, I think he just let the cat out of the bag. The cat is out, you know, and it has to be done now. And the one interesting thing Blade said, I think he was at a Scopa meeting in Parliament. Yeah. He said that Jacob Zuma's decision, right, to announce free education, actually put NSFAS in a free throw because it exposed NSFAS for not having any systems. Okay, so now you're sitting in a situation where now we all know there's no systems in NSFAS. Yeah. What do we do about it? Yeah. You can't just now say, oh no, Jacob Zuma, he did this, he did that. He did it, but now how do we go forward? And it looks like now there really isn't a plan of now, how do we go forward? Yeah. How do we fund NSFAS sustainably? How do we ensure that NSFAS is more efficient? Yeah. You know, you don't have situations where someone now goes into school, approved, but now only gets funded June, July. Yeah, you know those type of things. Yeah. So it's easy to blame it on Jacob, like everyone does, right? It's fine. It's not a problem. We're used to it, right? But now, how do you move forward? Yeah. And no one is actually coming up with those same solutions. That's the biggest problem that I have. That's the gripe that I have. Yeah.
Themba gets touched whenever you throw a problem at Zuma. But yeah, I think it's a broad problem. But for me, I really just believe it shows that our government does not understand development. I mean, I was watching something on like the development that's happened in China, right? China's not America. They have no celebrities. They have no crazy like world appeal, right? All they work on is getting people educated and getting people working. Yes. But our government that is in a developing state,
tell state also
things of cutting education. Like, what are you saving? Like, bro, you pay fees, right? You finish school, you work, you contribute to tax, you contribute to development. How is that even an option to cut that budget? And with this stuff like the State Capture Commission, we're seeing how much money is being wasted in the country. And then you say, but we're going to take money from education. For me, that doesn't make sense.
Just referring back also from the article that has been written by Dr. David Masondo, the Deputy Minister of Finance, where he said that structural reforms of South Africa are pretty much slow. So imagine that being referenced by the Deputy Minister, that our structural reforms are slow. So what is the problem that the government is actually doing? Is there fraud? Or is there corruption that is happening?
Exactly.
What's really happening with our, money that's supposed to be spent into much more significant things? So hence I'm saying it's pretty much, a sad thing where, certain people are not going to school due to financial situations. But our government, the National Treasury, most of the time, they need to, implement these structural reforms on like how we could get these kids to school and actually fund, So coming back to Wits, actually, the big question is they having a hardship aid scheme in terms of the 10 million aid scheme. Is it going to be enough for these kids to be able?
Apparently, Wits is like a 10 billion shortfall because of the historical debt thing. No, I mean a billion, sorry. The hardship is 10 million, but they have a billion shortfall. Sorry, so I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's enough, but I personally don't think South Africa will ever get anything done in terms of like getting people to pay back NSFAS, getting people to stop evading tax, because everybody sees when the money goes. That's why you can't motivate South Africans to contribute money to the system. Even that SABC thing, the grants that they wanted to introduce, nobody buys into those stuff, even when they see that if it worked, it would be dope, but like seeing where the money goes.
But I mean, looking at that SABC one to get some sort of payment, TV license payment, but now getting it from multi-choice, including it in your DSTV premium, honestly, that took forever for them to do. They should have done that a long time ago, right? That way SABC wouldn't be in the problems that they're in, the financial troubles that they're in, because there's 9 million subscribers from DSTV. That way, you've got 9 million people paying for the TV license guaranteed. But because of the relationship that
they're in bed together.
Choice, but you'd think that they would use those relationships to collect the money on behalf of SABC in order to make sure that the state broadcast is funded. But is it really in the interest of multi-choice to have it functioning properly? Maybe that's where the dynamics...
it goes back to the thing that like a controlling body should not have such a friendly relationship with, somebody they need to get revenue from, or... Yeah, the SABC and multi-choice are too friendly. Like
for another day altogether.
Anyway, we'll never finish that one. I want to move on to before we move on from the situation with the fees, I want to talk about the policing situation.
First of all, let's start here. Your reaction to what happened to Mr. Ntumba yesterday?
As I've said with the family, and I will forever say, I can't explain it. It's something that it has no inch, it has no grain of explanation and defense on it. Somebody just, for me, went crazy.
I don't think it is fair for you to come here today and say that it is inexcusable. South Africans have been complaining about the conduct of police. Now someone who has had absolutely nothing to do with the protest has died. Until when are you going to be visiting the families of people who have been senselessly killed?
Until that stops.
Bheki says that the guy who shot and killed Mthokozisi went crazy. But I don't think he went crazy. I think he was following instruction. Bheki was the guy who said shoot to kill. Whether it was a different context or not, the culture of police is that when you see a black person, toy or do whatever, shoot. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to start with a cynical situation where they made excuses. The guys would fight back. The guys would whatever. I mean, so you are saying that you want to punish the people that can't fight back. And in South Africa, police are actually the biggest culprits, or I don't have the data to support it, but I've seen police are the guys that go home, bash their wives, shoot and kill their wives, go to pubs, get in altercations, use their work firearms to think. So it's just a culture of like oppressing the weak. I mean, how do you fire students, bro? How do you fight students?
Coming back to Mthokozisi, at that point, what was Mthokozisi doing? Because apparently he was from a clinic, and was working, and he was not part of the strike. No, he was not. So when he was shot, I still remember that video. When he was shot, he showed his medicine and saying, guys, I'm not part of the strike.
But even from that video, it's a sensitive video. None of the people standing around that area were striking. They were just standing. The guys came out. The guys ran away. Isn't it the law that says even if somebody is in your house, if they've got their back turned and they're running away, you have no right to shoot? This is a civilian who's like, if I'm scared, somebody's in my house, I have no right to shoot them while they're running away. How much more does a policeman not have a right to shoot someone that's running away from him? You're a policeman, you're shooting a student running away from you.
Exactly. So that's how the human rights systems comes in. The Constitution is the government following the Constitution. No.
South Africa is a racist society, right? Yeah. Majority black society, yes, but the system that South Africa operates in is a very racist system. And I think that manifests in how the police treat black protesters and white protesters, so that self-hate, the not valuing the black body, black body being disposable, how Johannesburg was built with cheap and disposable labor of black people, that still manifests till today. So that's, I think, how I look at it when I see how the police treat black people, black protesters, and then we juxtaposition it with how they white protesters, so definitely a racist system, racist society, and it manifests itself in how the police actually do their policing. There's no value attached to a black life, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I just feel like we have a powerless government. Like, we have a government that is striking against ENCA, we have a government, Magashule, that's supporting the students in a strike.
Long live the student struggle, long live! Long live! Forward with radical economic transformation, forward! Forward with radical economic transformation, forward! Forward with socio-economic transformation, forward! Aluta! Let me remind you as students, your struggle is our struggle.
Bro, imagine if you went to your dad and you said, Dad, I want a car. Then your dad said, yes, my son, let's strike for you to get this car. Like, explain why you can't do it, or let's make means to do it. Don't come and say you support me in a struggle against you. Yeah. You understand? I'm like,
look, the A situation, I'm seeing it, right? It's politics, obviously it's playing politics. It's just another
needing more support.
Yeah, exactly. From its factional battles within the ANC manifesting in those student protests. Yeah. So he's there obviously buying face, buying points, for his faction. I think we're about 2 years, 3 years away from another election. Yeah, especially internal election in the ANC. So who knows? He's just playing politics, factional battles, and the other faction is the one that's in charge, is the one that's making those decisions. So you might see it as a rebellion against the decisions made by the faction that's in power in the ANC right now.
Okay. And coming back to Mthokozisi and Ntumba, apparently now the students want the name of the street to be
I think
changed.
it's the Beer Street. I fully support that. I fully support. Why do we need the De Beer Street?
And apparently, and yesterday they wanted to remove some statue.
I think they did.
They tried.
They tried to. It's not as easy as.
That's definitely a try.
Yeah, but dude, it's sad. Like, even this revolutionary things have to come at such a high cost. And I didn't want to go into how this protests, unfortunately, the worse they get, the more noise they make. And it's sad that it has to be stuff like losing lives that gets people to pay attention, our own government. But without dwelling on that way too much, it's a very important topic that should be discussed at length. But like, I was listening to the radio this past week, right? And a lady was making a comment regarding the Meghan and Harry situation. So this is like obviously racism on an international level, right? But I see like a lot of people are very touched about this interview and the whole situations. And sure, rightfully so, they must be. But as a South African, like, do you guys feel like we should be as involved in this stuff, or do we have like our own problems to worry about?
We have our own problems, but she's a celeb, quote unquote, right? So we see ourselves in them, right? We want them to embody our values. So that's why maybe we're so invested in them, right? So if something does go wrong in their lives or they make a misstep or whatnot, we feel betrayed, right? Or feel aggrieved also on their behalf. I think hence why we take this a little bit personal. Exactly.
Okay, sorry, you were
Okay,
saying.
no problem. I'm just saying that, of course, the royal family is an influence to the public. So a lot of people look up to them. And sometimes when you look up to a person and then you see something unexpected happen, so obviously you will be a bit offended. Same as just a celebrity that you look up to and then probably you meet them face to face and then they do this to you and you literally don't like them. So people with public influence, you expect them to be perfect and obviously they're not. So obviously coming from the royal family and obviously them being racist, it quite changes people's perspectives, especially going to the UK. And
Were you guys shocked?
I was shocked.
No, I wasn't.
Did you believe in them?
Who, the royal family?
Yeah.
Or? Actually, I did. I did.
You played yourself.
Bro, like, dude, guys, to be honest, I'm not moved. I feel sorry for Meghan, but my personal view is that stuff shouldn't even exist. I mean, dude, Prince Harry is complaining about being cut off now. Get a job, bro. Whose money you trying to live off? Those are people's tax money. I mean, you're trying to, and like, sure, like, people, I don't think people should have that much power because people are not perfect. Look, the Queen is racist. The Queen has that much power. Why does she have that much power? I don't feel people should have that power because, especially for what family they were born into. I feel like that shit is overplayed. But obviously now when you bring it back to a South African context, it's quite different. Unfortunately, this past week we learned of the recent passing of King Goodwill Zwelithini. And as a South African, obviously it hits different because we all identify with the story of Shaka, we know where it started, and we are all touched. But again, as great a man as he was, should this stuff continue where people based on where they were born assume roles of big leadership and big influence? What do you guys think of monarchs in general?
I mean, like, I'm coming from a royal, not me, obviously, I'm not from a royal family, but at a royal family perspective, I mean, like, someone should carry that legacy for it to continue. So obviously, if you want a particular tribe to carry on and to be respected as much as it is, why not bring someone new? Same as the president, obviously. If the president is there for like 5 years and obviously you are being removed and someone else comes.
And you're chosen.
Exactly. So, in a royal family perspective, someone needs to carry the family and keep things going.
Monarchs are a part of us, man. Like, they're part of society, you know, as humans in general, since as far back as we can date back. I mean, monarchs have always been there. Leadership wise, right, they've always played a significant role in how nations develop, how nations move, you know. Roles have changed now because we're more democratic. So obviously their roles in society have almost diminished. But I personally don't think we can necessarily downplay the role that they still have, you know, especially in a country like South Africa where there's, I don't want to say a divide, but there's people live in different ways. You know, people subscribe to different systems. There's people who still subscribe to that type of way of living under a monarch, right? So if that's the way they live and they choose to live, right, then the monarchs, maybe they can still apply in that sense. But now it becomes maybe an issue in terms of how much power they wield, you know, and how they can affect one's life and livelihood. That's where maybe...
I agree. I mean, culturally, they do play a very like key role. I mean, like as someone from Limpopo, I can't imagine life without King Bernard. You know, but in a more serious perspective, there is a very big need to preserve culture, you know, but like at what cost? Because like these monarchs, bro, they cost taxpayers a lot of money, and it's not distributed equally. So now, if you are, you know, if you are a Tsonga man, a Pedi man, a Zulu man, a Zulu woman, a Xhosa woman, even a white person, and you paying taxes, and those taxes are being distributed to the Zulu king more than to other kings, should you get touched or should you just ride with it?
Proportionality, dog, you know. So how do we now justify maybe paying the Tsonga king, which there is no necessarily a Tsonga king, because there's so much divide in that conversation as to, because there's people who believe that this guy is entitled to be king, this one is not supposed to be king, you know. Also rest in peace to Nzimande, you know, I think he also recently passed away.
King
exactly, you know. So how do you now justify maybe paying someone more, well, equally to, let's say, King Zwelithini, you know, who, you know, there's at least, I don't know how many million subjects that recognize him, recognize leadership, and at the same time you go to Mujaji. So now how do you rush proportionality? That's how I look at it. But
no, it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
It is very difficult, most especially if whether do they improvise that much in their community or whatever village that they're living in. So it's sometimes probably that money that is being given to them, do they actually distribute it to the rural areas? Why aren't there no roads? You know, so
because that's still the government's job, even though they are getting a budget.
Exactly. So sometimes I just feel like they put it in their savings for their kids or what's
You never know.
It's inheritance. You know, so I think that's the good thing to be part of the royal family. Maybe that is why maybe they have a lot of wives too. Money talks.
Money does talk. I could not agree more. But guys, for today's episode, I think that's where we're going to leave it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting the channel. As always, don't forget we're shooting at Team Coffee. That is 3 Campbell Road in Fourways. Do give them a visit. Tell them the Not So Daily Show sent you. And yeah, keep supporting, like, subscribe, share the channel, share the videos. Until next week, cheers.
Peace.